All right, good. So welcome everybody on a shot with Nils. Obviously that's me. Welcome at the Manhattan Bar. And today I got one of the, for me, longest serving members for the HC in the US. Obviously Ryan joins us from San Diego. That means for me, nightcap, for him, like an early day drinking start, probably. Like, it's going to be his worst Friday ever. Because right now it's like, pretty much just like, he probably just jumped out of bed, straight on the sofa to welcome us during his quarantine. And yeah, what we're doing obviously is this kind of like, having a flow in a conversation and hopefully some like, pieces of like, knowledge and I would say a philosophical take on all things bartending. And the interesting thing from my point of view, and probably for all of you, is like Ryan is not just interested and like, in bartending, but he's interested in producing and making his own bitters. So obviously, what was the kind of starting point for you, Ryan, to start off making your own bitters? Was like, everything else was like, not sufficient, or was it just that you've been intrigued by the depths of all things herbal?
It started, I started bartending almost 14 years ago in San Francisco, and I was doing it to get through college. After school finished, I'd finished my second degree, and I was in that kind of state of like, what am I going to do with my life? I didn't really at the time think of bartending as a viable, like, long-term career. I kind of had that little panic moment of like, oh, I'm in debt, in college debt, and what do I do? So I, did what most sane people do, and I sold all my shit and bought a one-way ticket to South America and went and disappeared for half a year, running from everything. But it was really on that trip as I was backpacking all the way from Colombia all the way down to Argentina and going through all the different towns and villages and countries and seeing how every single area I went to had its own local beer, its own local spirit, had its own local drinking customs and cultures. And I just realized how much of a global phenomenon not only alcohol, but the production of alcohol was. And so when I came back, I was like, I'm going to dive fully into bartending and the cocktail world, and also learn how to produce stuff myself. And so I came back, totally broke, had a couple $100 to my name, and just, living in a buddy's couch trying to find a job. And I decided I was going to buy a home brew kit. And then I didn't have a lot of money coming in at the time. So I just started saving all my coin change. And over the course of about 2 months, I saved up a couple $100 to buy like a home brew kit in the back of a magazine. Like I was a Boy Scout again, looking at like that BB gun as well. And I got it. And from there, it just kind of, I was like, okay, well, now I need to learn how to distill. And then I thought, well, how can a kid who has absolutely no money get into opening his own spirit company without having to like find an investor or a loan? And that's when I was like, I can make bitters. I always liked herbal spirits and, very bitter beers. So I just started collecting herbs at home, and then we started experimenting. I found a couple guys, and from there, it just slowly kept building and building. And then right before the quarantine hit, we released our 7th and 8th product, and we had 2 more in the pipeline, which are now pushed to later in the summer, as well as our first gin. So we put it out. I just sold it out of the tasting room and then gave it to friends and family. But yeah, so that's kind of on the horizon. This was a way to break into the larger spirit production side of things without having to have that huge upfront capital. And we partnered with local distilleries over the years. So basically, hey, can we just have that corner? We'll use your license. We'll give you 20% of everything we make, pay you rent. And they're like, yeah, sure. For them, it's a win-win, because me and my partners, we were all still active bartenders and beverage directors. So we were able to utilize their products in a lot of our cocktails. So it was, it's a back and forth kind of deal. That's kind of how we got to here.
I mean, I totally like, what I do like about like, these kind of American attitude, like, here everyone is kind of like, more like, it's got to be planned perfect, and then they start executing. And like, what I guess is like, you started executing as a trial and error, getting better. And then basically you got a viable, business concept. It's like,
it was a lot.
It's more like, it's like when you're looking back, you realize, all right, good. I did my mistakes, but I'm still running.
Yeah, did a lot, man. There was a time period we were pretty much just bootlegging and selling illegally out of the back of my truck because, like, who's going to come after us? Let's just keep selling product. We're on menus. We got to do it. So It's been quite of a trip, man. It's fun, and it's opened a lot of doors and a lot of opportunities for collaborations, like the OG bitters we did with the HC down in Baja. That was so fun. I'm actually looking at the box right now, thinking like that was cool, you know. So it's been fun. A lot of work, but a lot of reward too. So
Yeah. And obviously, like, the quarantine is for you something like, where you got, like, right now, got some spare time and I got to use it. It's not
yeah,
like some people are like, looking like, like a deer in the headlight, they're kind of paralyzed and they're going like, ooh, what I'm doing. And you just go like, no, I got time off, and you just like, staying active. That's
yeah.
pretty
They're
cool.
definitely the first couple weeks for deer in the headlight for me. It was like it's 9 a.m. I can
Yeah.
start drinking now. Okay. You know, and then you kind of pull yourself out of that spiral, and you're like, okay, I need a routine. You know, like starting to drink at 9, it doesn't really work every day. And so, you know, I kind of pulled myself out of that. I'm back on like a solid workout routine. We did open a couple of spots for takeout, so I'm working a few afternoons. It's just a very strange version of bartending when you got your mask on and just doing to-go cocktails. That's all we're allowed to do here. But yeah, it's also giving me some time to kind of focus on some of the other projects that have kind of sat in the wayside. So we're actually going up Monday to do the first official batch of gin that we'll be bottling. And right now, the only thing holding us back is label approval. But because of the shutdown, we probably won't see that until late July. So at least we'll have some products. So I'll have to send you a bottle.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it would be even nicer, like, just coming over, like, no one knows when that will happen, but I'm definitely going to come over and then, like, promise night, like, guest shift. I do this. Love to. And I mean, the nice thing, I mean, obviously, like, these quarantine is like, here we got a federal system, like, all states are kind of like, different, like, rules and regulation for opening up. Restaurants can open up in Lower Saxony coming Monday, but for example, teddy parlors are not allowed. So, and then bars obviously are not allowed as well. So, but a beer garden is allowed. So it's like now a lot of confusion, not really
Yeah.
like a where you say, all right, that makes sense. And I guess it's like, it's a big problem. Do you know when you can open up in Southern California again? Like, when you feel like, right, good, they're gonna
Yeah.
be
So
less restrictive.
we're allowed to do takeout and to go. We can have up to 10 people in there at a time, but we like obviously fudge the rules a little bit. If you're waiting for your food and you like want to sip on your cocktail, I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm just gonna look the other way. But I heard Tuesday our governor is going to announce when restaurants can go into, I think, phase 2 he calls it, which is limited capacity. You got to maintain social distancing rules, 25% capacity, I think. Which you've seen like prohibition that isn't really going to work. So we might have to wait. And then El Chingon, our nightclub, our bread and butter is the nightclub element.
Yeah.
Food's great, but it's like people go there for the entertainment aspect. So it's going to be interesting. We're still on the fence of whether we'll open foreign dining in at that time or just wait till we can actually pack the house out.
Yeah.
But
I mean, here is like, obviously, they do have the 50% capacity. So you got to, like, take some tables out, and then, like, outside's the same. So that's kind of like, obviously from business point of view, it really is tough to, like, figure out with, obviously the overhead still stays the same. Like, how does it going to work out, right? And so it's kind of like loads of discussion about that, but I guess it's a viable thing, kind of like to take it slow. Obviously, no one knows what's going to happen. So, but it definitely is business-wise, it's pretty tough. But back to the most beautiful place, like, in the US, San Diego. And for me, like, the most beautiful thing about San Diego is always, like, people obviously are pretty laid back, kind of like, these stereotype where you say, all right, get all these yoga shakes, like, vegan and, like, oat and soy milk, like a latte, and then, like, looking nice, surfing and all this stuff. And it sounds like a stereotype, but it's obviously pretty true. Like, all stereotypes have a grain of truth in it. And for
tell
me,
people, oh, sorry, go on.
no.
I was just telling people, like, you know, the overall mentality of people here is so laid back and so happy. And it's like, well, how could you not be happy? Look around you. It's 75 degrees and sunny and perfect weather 10 months out of the
And you got
year.
the ocean.
Yeah, we have the ocean here. It's a great drinking city because we got a lot of colleges, a lot of tourists, a lot of military here. So everybody's out enjoying themselves. It
Yeah.
just kind of breeds this culture of, yeah, I just want to be happy, you know. And because everyone's outside, they're always exercising because they don't want to they don't want to look bad in their bikinis, you know.
Yeah.
So it's
And
not a bad place to live.
and are they like, is this kind of like, is this vibe everyone experience? Is it like, more subdued right now, or is it still like, going strong?
In San Diego, it's definitely been subdued. People are starting to go a little stir crazy because the weather's actually going into that perfect time. But we've been really good about social distancing and keeping off the beaches. However, our neighbors to the north, the next county up, which is Orange County, it's a very
Yeah.
conservative, white, very wealthy area, pretty much screwed the pooch. And as soon as the beaches were open, they flocked like it was spring break. And the governor tried to close the beaches statewide, but our
Yeah.
mayor was like, hey, we follow the rules. So we got out and we were the exception, which then caused protests and potential riots. So it's kind of a mess between the wealthy haves and the have-nots here. But San Diego we're limping into it, and we're doing the best we can, I guess.
All
So
right, perfect. And if you just like, got a in ordinary times, like, obviously Tijuana is just like, a quick jump over the border. Um, Food wise, for me, Tijuana is just like one of the most amazing places in the world,
oh, yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And going there is like, the most obvious thing is always like, you're leaving this kind of like well lit America and you're coming to this more dirty rundown, but so vibrant and so
Yeah.
exciting, like, Mexico. If you would choose like a Mexican spirit, what would you choose? Not a brand, but a category. Mezcal, tequila, or
I would say Cristalino tequila has been my new favorite, which is that the new one they're doing at age, and it's filtered so it's clear, but it's just such a smooth tequila, and that's what I've been drinking a lot of. It also helps that my girlfriend's a brand ambassador for one, so we just got stockpiles of it. But
so
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, definitely that's just the spirit of San Diego too. Is tequila and super hoppy IPA beers. That's just what everybody wants down here.
yeah. So on the
Yep.
one hand, very smooth. On the other hand, kind of more edges.
Yep.
So like a good personality.
Oh yeah.
That's
That
cool.
kind of,
So talking about like, obviously these kind of San Diego spirit, like, you go into physical exercise, looking good, doing sports, go surfing, you can go for a run, everything. Are you doing something to stay fit during this time?
so we're allowed to exercise outdoors. Me personally, I got into boxing, like cardio style boxing, about 2 years ago. So I went out and I bought a heavy bag and I have it on my balcony. So I've just been doing like some online boxing courses daily, and that's been helping out. And then I do go for runs. Where I live is real close to the convention center,
Yeah.
and convention stairs are like everybody's exercise spot these days. So I'll run around the harbor, and then come home and hit the bag for a little bit, which helps not only
Are you
physically
leading
but
with the left or
mentally.
with the right hand?
I'm right-handed, yeah.
All right.
So
Good.
yeah,
And
that's been helping out a lot. And then just being able to go into work a few days a week now just kind of helps with like the mental aspect of isolation. Being able to talk to people. And it's funny how many people come in, they want to buy a taco, but they'll spend 10 minutes talking to you because they're so deprived of human interaction.
it's the same here. Like, it's like, this kind of like awkward, like, moment when you meet first, and then you feel like, no, it's okay that we're talking, kind of like, we're
Yeah.
interacting, and then it suddenly starts to get a flow, right? And you really feel like, it's almost hard to pull off again, right? Because the people are really kind of longing to this, like, for this exchange, right? It is so, I mean, for me, like, one thing I actually found kind of disappointing, like, obviously we do have some lobbyists, like, for the hotellery and everything. And everyone was just like shouting, like, all restaurants and hotels, they do need money and blah, blah, blah. And no one actually puts a point out why. And for me, it's like, obviously bars, restaurants, like, need to survive because they create a social fabric.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's like, that's where like, conversation exchange is happening. And obviously it is the same in Germany, but kind of like, obviously when you have a country which is so big like the US, you always have this kind of different vibes in different cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they all have like, like, on one hand, it's the same kind of setup, but on the other hand, it's like a total difference, like, you know, in how the people consume, how they go out, and all these things, right? And that makes it so special and so important. That's the reason why you move there, why you live there, why you enjoy living there. So it's like, you know, it's a restaurant and bar scene. It's not like, you know, a flat could be everywhere, right? That's just, so.
Been kind of interesting. A lot of people have been coming in since we were open for takeout, and they're like, man, I moved downtown San Diego for the bar and the restaurant, the nightlife scene. And then it was like 2 days later, we went into quarantine. And I just feel so bad for these people because it's not cheap to live downtown San Diego. And these people are paying a premium and the amenities are being, you know, in this wonderful city and all the things to do. And now they can't. They're stuck at home in their super expensive bedroom apartment. But yeah, I mean, that's a good point you made. And I think that's what a lot of the politicians here in the U.S. aren't getting with these relief funds is they're funneling all this money, but they're not understanding that it's the social atmosphere. The bar is what our business is. And just giving us a little bit of money to like pay payroll or keep the lights on isn't helping the long term of getting us back to that culminating pot of people, you know?
Yeah. And for me, it's obviously like, you know, we don't need this kind of like, you know, more rules and regulation. We need this kind of understanding and respect for the others. Like now we're doing this social distancing right now for the others, like, you know, kind of a selfless thing. That's okay. But on the other hand, like, you know, what happens when you have a good conversation? I mean, bars does not mean that like everyone goes just like shit-faced and drunk. It's like, you go to bars because there's an atmosphere, there's like an understanding and communication. That's like, you know, for me, a key of a good bar, right? Like meeting strangers, leaving friends, like, you know, this kind of thing, right? That's like what happens in a bar. But yeah, anyway, when you said like, you know, you like all things bitter, if you would choose like, you know, a drink you would love, Manhattan or Negroni?
I would probably go more Manhattan than Negroni. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of Negronis, to be honest. I don't know if it's just the Campari, or I just feel like they're a little too sweet for me between the Campari and the sweet vermouth. But yeah, I've always loved a good Manhattan. We made cherry apple bitters exactly for that cocktail, and I'm also just a big whiskey fan too. So
yeah. So what would be your perfect recipe? Like you know, what parts?
At least 100 proof rye, and that's 2 parts. And then we use a medium dry Italian vermouth. We use Mancino, 1 part. And then we do 4 dashes of my cherry apple, and then 2 dashes of our house, which is our like Angostura replacement that we created. So, and it's a lot drier and more bitter and heavier on the Caribbean spices than Angostura is.
Orange peel or no orange peel?
We do a Luxardo cherry. You know,
yeah. So no zest, no like, you know, a squeeze of a lemon or orange zest. All right. So you pretty much go for bitter. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the back behind you, is it Rocky?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, I bought that. I was training. We do this thing called industry boxing. So a bunch of people train, and then it's a charity fight. It's 3 rounds. And so I was getting in the mode, in the zone, and, you know, watching all the movies. And then just like Tyson said, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And I went out there, took 1 hit, and then we just went to straight street mode. Ref had to stop the fight. They're like, this isn't boxing, man. This is like a street fight. So, yeah, that was my foray into amateur boxing. So I was like, maybe I'll just stick to hitting the bag at home, man. Because
all right, good. A favorite boxer, like who would go, like, you know, what kind of style do you think, like, you know, was most complete, or what kind of fighter would you go like, all right, that one was like, you know, pretty cool?
I've actually been watching a lot of MMA lately, and so I actually got to see Conor McGregor fight out in Vegas back in January. We started working with his whiskey company a little bit, so they gave some tickets. And I've liked his fighting style just because he's just that punk rock kid who just doesn't give a shit and doesn't care what you think about him. His arrogance, I think, is kind of a charming factor.
It definitely is polarizing.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked people who are a little inflammatory like that. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I recently got into this, so it's not like I have this long time love of the sport. I've always just loved the idea of the Rocky movies. It was something my dad gave me when I was a kid. So, well.
So you're not necessarily looking like, you know, old Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, or like, you know, Peekaboo by Customato trained for, you know, Mike Tyson.
If I had to pick Joe or Muhammad, I would pick Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I mean, he
recently,
was definitely polarizing as well, and he was
yeah,
inflammatory as well, but a fucking amazing. I mean, unfortunately, we probably never saw him like, at his real prime and as at best, right? I mean, due to his break, but fucking amazing. I mean, for me, Thriller in Manila, it's always like, if you need entertainment for 45 minutes, Thriller in
yeah,
Manila, Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, it's just fucking amazing.
yeah.
It's just so crazy. That's so good. And Joe Frazier, for me, he's really like, he's like a pit bull. He's just like a terrier, just like, boom, always just straight in. And he's so quick. And Muhammad Ali just takes so much punishment. That's fucking insane.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, just the 3 minutes or 6 minutes I was up there, I was like, I don't know how these guys go, 10 rounds. Like, this is
Oh, that's so exhausting. That's just like, it is so, I mean, even when you feel like, you're doing something at home and you feel like, oh, I'm sweating like a pig and I'm pretty cool,
yeah,
right? Like, no, I'm doing it. And then you feel like, all right, good. It's not just like the amount of, punches you got to throw. It's like, this kind of thinking about where to throw it and when.
yeah. It's a
And
chess game.
we're just happy, like, when you're working, like, on a punching bag, on one thing, the heavy bags, you always feel like, oh, this thing moved so beautiful, right? And you're
Yeah,
happy that you kind of like, oh yeah, I'm pulling my hips and just like everything, just like concentrating on that. And for these guys, it's like, they're doing this not with a bag, just hangs there. They're doing it
yeah,
with someone who tries to hit them.
yeah.
That's just like, whoa, that's amazing. That's
It's
really
really
crazy.
crazy. So they were supposed to have another one. It got canceled, obviously, because of COVID. So
Yeah.
whenever we have an idea, we might do industry boxing again later in the year. So I might jump back in there. I don't know. My little brother is training hard for it. A bunch of my bartenders are. So it's fun. It's, we had 3,000 people on top of the Hard Rock, and it was
Yeah.
outdoors. You get to walk out to your song. It was like being like a real boxing champion. But then you go in there and you get hit, and you're like, what the hell? Everybody's watching me now. But yeah, it was fun. School experience.
No, I mean, actually, like, the one time I've been in San Diego, I've been to one of these, like,
I was gonna say, I think I went to one with you.
yeah, boxing matches. It
Really,
was just like
one was
fucking
really good.
insane because it was just like packed. Everyone was there, and like, obviously, kind of like, rooting for, like, their own champ,
Yeah,
like, their own bartenders, and it's just like, it's so. On the one hand, it was really like, totally fierce, and like, everyone was into it. On the other hand, it was friendly.
mm-hmm.
It's a
Yeah,
weird mixture. It's like, it's kind of like, you're hitting it like, someone, but it's still kind of friendly. Like, this kind of like, sounds like a total contradiction, but the
yeah,
atmosphere was still like, yeah, I'm for my boy. That's my boy there, right? Kind of like,
yeah,
but on the other hand, it was still like, it's, we are all in this, like, that's our boys. Like, it
yeah,
was this community of bartenders, like, really going for it. That's how, for us in Germany, it sounds like a weird concept. Like, if you would like propose that here for the industry, we're doing bar fights, something like that, it would be like, not with real punches. Are you? Are you crazy? That would be
yeah,
really like, an insane idea. But I definitely liked the atmosphere. It was cool. And as I said, it was kind of like a weird thing that it's kind of something can be so raw. On the other hand, it is so still friendly
yeah,
and for a good cause, right? That's like, what really counts. So
yeah.
that was pretty good, yeah. But anyway, ask you about drinks, and I got one question. Like, I actually was really pleased when I asked Louis, because his answer was just like so beautiful. That so I feel like, obviously, for bartenders, one motivation is to work, is that you sometimes get the reward of not money but a compliment. Like you said, like, right now with a takeaway, it's kind of weird, like people talking to you like 10 minutes, because they just
Yeah.
feel like, there's someone like, doing something for me, and they actually appreciate it really. So do you remember, like, a very nice compliment, like any situation, like from your colleagues, a barback, another bartender or a guest? What would be like, a compliment where you say, that is a fuel I'm driving on?
Um, it's probably when you serve someone a drink and you're putting them in that perfect environment where they're happy and you can see like the stress in their face go away, and then they look at you and they're like, this is the greatest drink I've ever had. And I have to tell myself, we hear that a lot in our cocktail bars because people aren't familiar with great drinks and they come and they try it and they're like, oh, this is so incredible. And you hear it so often, you kind of get numb to it. But then you got to realize, like, wait a minute, I just made this person's day so much that in the whole span of their lifetime, they're saying this is the greatest drink they've ever had. And it's something when I bring on a new bar back, I try to impress on them is we're here for them. We're here because we need to take in all the angst and the anxiety and just the stress of life that they do in their job. They come to us. So I'm like, this is not the easiest job at times, but it is one of the most rewarding because you're making people's day. They're leaving happy and you're creating a positive environment, and that's to me what keeps driving me in this industry.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said, like, as a compliment, it's not like, about you in the end. Obviously, you're receiving a compliment.
Yeah.
But the compliment is what is the value of the person sending the compliment?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for the person. It's not like, when the people say that was the best drink ever, just because you heard it that often, there's not like a list. There's not like a ranking where you say, like, on a scale out of 1, was that true? Or was it like, that valuable? It's like that he felt was a great best drink ever, the greatest experience in drinking his whole life. That is what counts. It's not like, what it makes for you. It's what made it, like, actually saying, like, what was that the person felt like, taking the initiative of saying not just thank you or like, there's, boom, here's a tip, like, nice, but really going like this extra mile of kind of like trying to express what he experienced was the greatest drink ever, right?
Yeah, it's getting people to let their guard down, and be comfortable. So that's perfect. Something we do. So.
Very nice. So greatest drink ever. That's like like my key. Like, we're definitely gonna have a shot now.
Okay.
You got to start day drinking. I'm gonna like pull out a different glass. I'm trying to show my vintage glass collection here. This one got like real gold, like at the rim. It might look bigger than it actually is, or it might not. I might just be greedy.
Wonderful Jägermeister shot glasses. It's actually the only shot glass I have in my house. So
perfect.
So cheers.
Ryan, thanks for getting up so early.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yum.
So one kind of like a different thing, like when I ask you about the recipe, you answered with a part. Like I ask you like what kind of part, and for me, like there's the biggest difficulty sometimes is like transforming the ounces to milliliters, right?
Yeah.
And when I see recipes or like these things, how do you like to write down recipes in ounces, in parts, or do you use milliliters or centiliters?
We use ounces.
Centiliters.
No, ounces.
Ounces. All right, good. I mean, because for me, it's always like, a quarter of an ounce. It's always like, I feel like, boom, back in school. What is a quarter of an ounce? Like, oh, fuck you. 7.5 mil. Ooh. So just
yeah,
kind
that would feel when we read your recipes and it's like 100 CLs. You're like, what the fuck is that? It's not on my jigger.
You're right. I get that. Totally. But that's for me is always like is the biggest difficulty when I read like these kind of like set up on recipes. It's always like a quarter of an ounce. I always like fuck you. It's just like it's not what I want to hear. Quarter of an ounce. I don't know what it is. But anyway, if you could or would, do you go for free pouring or do you go for jigger and executing the drink? Jigger.
Jiggers all the way. So especially at Prohibition and the more cocktail centric of our venues, at our nightclub, we've designed them to be like idiot proof because it's such high volume, and the bartenders that we hire, are speed bartenders. They don't care about cocktails. So we design them to either be just 2 pours that you can free pour, or we put them on draft. We put them in drink dispensers, slushy machines, just to speed up. Because once the lights go down, the music goes up. You're talking vodka Red Bulls, Jameson shots, Patron shots. That's that crowd. So we have a saying at that bar: we're classy till 10. and then it goes crazy.
Yeah, perfect. Very good. So, if you could open up, like, just like, picturing this, like, not the quarantine, just like, a perfect world. We're talking about an imaginary perfect world. If you would open up a cocktail bar, how many seats at the bar and how many seats in the venue would you choose for your perfect place? It's not about economic, like, thoughts you might have, like, I need that much, like, turnaround or something. Just like,
Yeah.
where you would feel like, that would be my bartender's dream, like, to work in. How big would that place
Say 8 seats, because I'd like to keep it to 2 wells and 2 bartenders and no more than like 8 tables. So relatively small. So I like the intimate setting of just me and another guy. That's how most days at our cocktail bar is. On the weekends, we had a third that comes in just because the amount of volume we do. But it's always been great to have, your right hand man or woman, whoever it is. You're just in the well, and you're busy enough to where you're not stopping, but you have enough time for that friendly banter, and then just the back and forth with the guests too is
Yeah,
what I'm there. So
perfect. And if you would choose your perfect right-hand man, or woman, doesn't matter. What is the quality you're looking for in that person?
intelligence and humor. Humor is a big part. Like, we're not a stuffy bar. Like, we really try to stay away from that kind of hoity-toity style of cocktail bartending, which it has its place, but we don't call ourselves mixologists. We like to joke around. Our menu is full of like anecdotes and inside jokes and movie references, because it's funny when people, when they read their menu and they start cracking up amongst themselves, like, oh my God, they call this drink this. It
Yeah.
kind of sets that stage of like, we're serious, but we're not serious. We don't take ourselves too seriously.
No, I guess it's always like, something to do with maturity. It's like, when you're secure of yourself, like, you know what you can do. You don't need, like, kind of impress this thing or the attitude with, like, a name or title, like, and the self-proclaimed, like, mixologist is always kind of like, a creepy word, more or less, for me. It's like,
Yeah.
it makes me
It's all
cringe.
about self-promotion at that point. That's not something we're really about.
Yeah,
So,
totally agree. And for me, like, one thing I always feel like, that good humor is always depending on intelligence. Like, when you said intelligence and humor, for me, it's always like, really like, as a humorous person, like, which kind of like, always comes with this comeback, right?
mhm.
Like, it usually means like, they got something going on in between their ears, right? Like, there's some, like, mess working, like, not necessarily overtime, but it's definitely working.
Yeah,
And they got
definitely.
to kind of like, I would say that usually is for me like an indicator for like, some brains when they got a good humor, and probably like, as well, a good attitude in terms of like, not taking themselves too serious.
100% agree with you. Yeah. So,
So I mean, I always like, the English guys, like, another stereotype, but it obviously helps sometimes. But the English, they are always like, very quick in making fun of themselves, like, it's just,
yeah.
but they're not necessarily picking on someone else,
Yeah.
right? So I like that kind of like, where you feel like, self-depreciating, like, kind of humor, where you don't take yourself like, I'm so important, like,
Yeah.
don't need this.
Everybody that works for us at Prohibition definitely has that vibe and that mentality. So I miss my guys, to be honest. They've been popping in to see me because I'm upstairs now, like just doing takeout. They'll come in. We're able to sell bottles to go now as part of the relaxed laws. So they're
Yeah,
coming in to buy a bottle of booze, and like we'll sit there and chat for like 3 minutes and talk shit to each other. And it's like, when can we get back to this full time?
absolutely. What kind of drinks do you sell?
It's seasonal. So we do every 4 months, we change our menu, and our menu there is about 40 cocktails, which will
So
be
now
definitely
just
pared
sticking
down.
to the menu you already had, like, you take out drinks are like, bottled drinks you already had on your menu right now, or
You mean the ones to go?
yeah,
Is
the
that what you're?
ones.
Oh yeah, we just picked our top sellers from each of the venues because we have those 3 concepts in one building. So we just took the top 2 selling cocktails from each one to go. And if people come in and they ask for something, if I can do it, I'll do it. But we're not fully stocking the bar. Our soda guns aren't
Yeah,
even working. It's it's really limited, but the people that are going out and spending money on this, the people are still working. They have an excess of cash right now because they can't go out like they normally do. So they're willing to do whatever. And we're just selling bulk. Like, here's 8 watermelon margaritas, or here's 4 old fashions, and people are just happy to support and try to keep these businesses afloat at this
And
point.
is it like, that you supply the bottles, or do they have to bring the bottles? Because here was like, for some bars was actually a problem to actually get bottles, like, for specific size. So they actually took back, like, bottles and kind of cleaned them and then gave them out again. Is it like, you have no problem with that?
So we can sell pre-made cocktails with the alcohol in to-go cups, like your standard kitchen deli cups. But we also can sell full bottles like a liquor store now.
All
So
right.
so that's been, being able to sell those bottles has been great because, we get a lot of allocated things that you just can't find in stores, and stuff that's like single barrel selections that we're known for. So now people can take that bottle and go home with it because they can't buy it at the store. So that's been a huge help
All
for
right.
us.
Cool.
So, and plus, it's San Diego. People just want to drink outside, and they don't give a shit. So you're just handing them cocktails and a cup of ice. It's like, once you go out my doors, it's on you. And so on the weekends, it's everybody. They're like, yeah, I'll take that big margarita and a big thing of ice. They just
I
walk
got
out the
for
door.
a
Like, yeah,
watermelon margarita.
yeah. They're just walking down the street because cops got better things to do right now, So.
I mean, that probably like, is for your municipality, like, that San Diego vibe, right? I
Yeah.
guess, like, in New York, there's definitely going to be a problem with, like, just walking down the street with, like,
Yeah.
an
We
oversized.
definitely weren't hit nearly as hard as New York. So we only have, I think, something like 2,000 cases here. So the overall mentality is pretty relaxed here. So that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, one advantage is that you're not relying on, like, public transport that, much. And obviously
Yeah.
the density in New York is kind of, 100 times, like, more crowded than, like, being
Yeah.
in San Diego. Just like, makes it
Definitely.
easier. That's for sure. Good. Right, kind of like for me, do you want to ask me any question?
Yeah. What you been up to, man? I haven't talked to you in a while. What's
Yeah,
new?
I mean, obviously, like for me, it was like in the beginning, like, it was pretty much like, the 1st of March was like, coming back, or the 2nd of March, I was coming back from Denmark. And from then on, it was really like, boom, all trips canceled, boop, 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 boop. Like,
Yeah.
traveling, like, all canceled. So that is really like, I'm pretty much down to, like, talking via obviously a flat screen, which is like the most unsatisfying thing ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm technically right now, I'm kind of like, pretty much advanced. Like, this problem is the beginning, like, getting a picture going and everything. I figured that one out, like, in 3 seconds. That's like, like, boom. That's like Quicksilver. That's like, whoa, I'm really into it. So obviously, like, the quarantine, like, got me going and being more technical advanced, which
Nice.
is still a very, like, minor level. Like, probably like, every second grader is more advanced in, in all things, computers than I am. But I probably have to get used to, like, not being physical, like, in other places, which is for me, as I already said, like, with what makes bars and restaurants, like, so beautiful, which is that, like, we actually, everything you see right now on social media can only move or touch people because they have this kind of connection to it, because they've seen a film of this, like, actor. So then when the actor does something, it makes, like, it touches them. Or they met this person, like, live, and so it's kind of like, means something to them. Or it kind of like, touches on, like, these everyday, like, emotion. So they feel like I can relate to this, right? But obviously what's missing, and I'm really, like, feel like this is kind of, and it's really something I do hope that people realize, you can't Instagram, taste is not Instagrammable. You can't transport taste or vibes or emotion via like, just a so-called social media. And what we're doing in this kind of like, we create this social fabric, like, like restaurants, bars, cafes are like the skin of society, the biggest organ, which keeps it all together, right? There might be other parts like, some other industries or like, part of the economy, which constitutes the brain or like, the heart or whatever, all vital organs, but the skin is the biggest organ which keeps everything together and which is breathing and living. And it's like, what bars actually mean, or what alcohol as a cultural phenomenon makes it so important. It's not like, getting drunk. It's like, with whom are you getting drunk?
Yeah, it's the act.
It's, like, it's not just about taste. It's about like, with whom are you sharing your experience, right?
That's
like,
something everybody keeps saying, man. I just want to go have a beer with my buddy, and that's everyone's just missing that interaction, It's sad, and I hope we get through this quick because I'm definitely miss that too.
Absolutely, this is so tough. But anyway, go for another shot.
Yeah, sure. One more in me.
It's so easy to make you like, to get you drinking, like, at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's like, that is dangerous territory you're embarking on.
Oh, this will be the last one. I don't got to work till 3:30, so I got 6.5 hours. So.
All right, good.
Take my little dog for a run and sober up. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, baby. This is my newest addition in life.
Oh.
Yep, this is my little puppy.
Seriously?
Ensenada. Adorable.
Is it a little lady or a boy?
It's a lady, but I named her John Rambo because I'm ridiculous.
All right, good. So everyone knows when you're like, calling the dog, everyone expects something like, fierce, like, and whatever, like,
he shows up.
And then like, he just goes like, don't pick me up again. I was sleeping.
Yeah, she's a spoiled little princess, especially with me home all day long.
Yeah. And she loves that. It's the same as my dog. It's like, he probably got to go like, have this like, very expressive look when he goes like, why aren't you leaving?
Yeah.
It's such a good thing going on, and now you're just leaving. Like, wasn't it good? And I mean, obviously,
for an hour, come back, and she's like super hyper.
Yeah,
it is nice. Definitely, it was nice to have this little thing during all this quarantine. So,
absolutely. I mean, for me, it's like, getting up, like, on your own. It's like, that's discipline. But when you have a dog,
yeah,
getting up is just like, it's joy. It's like, far more like, you got a purpose. Like,
yeah.
I always feel like, when people are walking outside, like, obviously here, like, wooded area, like, and people are going through the forest without a dog, I always feel like, what kind of creepy person are you?
Yeah.
Like, he probably is like, he's stalking someone, like, he's a predator, like, he's looking for women or whatever. It's just like, it always feels like, why are you going into a forest without a dog? Come on, seriously. There's no reason for it, right? So that's kind of like, it makes me, like, for me, having a dog around makes my day perfect. And it's like, and you always get something like, I mean, when I just got him, like, I got my puppy, like, in November, like, last year. So he's now 8 months and a week, right? And he's full blown puberty, like, he's just like, hormones are going crazy. And then there's like, a very beautiful lady, like, one of his girlfriends, like, he's really charming. So, and she's in heat. And he goes fucking crazy. He's not eating breakfast. He's like, going on a walk. He meets her and he just goes like insane. They're so in love. Like, it's a hot danger zone right now, right? And then he comes back, doesn't eat his breakfast. He wants to go out singing, going like, I want to go out. They go out the next time. And then he comes back and he's so exhausted because for him, it's like really like, so stressful. He comes back and he sleeps for 5 hours, like, on one stretch, just going like, boom, totally out. So funny.
Yeah, I've been taking her for about an hour a day just because it gives me something to do in the day. And then it wears her out. And by the time we get home, she just lays on the couch. Done.
Yeah. So. And then like there's this kind of very subtle signs like More here? No stretching more here? You could give me a stretch. Yeah, that's good. Good. Go on. No. More here?
Yeah,
Very subtle. They're just like they're so perfect. They definitely make you happy. That's for sure.
sure, absolutely.
So you just got her, or do you have her for
I
longer?
got her in October, and
All
I,
right.
I went down to Ensenada with my girlfriend to volunteer at a shelter. She'd been wanting to get back into volunteer work, and we decided to make a weekend out of it. So we drove down and met this group called the Animal Pad, and they go down to a no-kill shelter that's next to the kill shelter, and every Friday they take as many dogs as they can. And it's overcrowded. It's pretty awful conditions. But we went down there just to feed them and walk these dogs. And I saw her in one of the cages, and I just kept going back to that cage. And I'm like, oh boy, I just wanted a cat. And then I'm like, fuck it, I'm taking the dog. We came back the next morning. I just walked in there, and I'm like, give me the dog. And they're like, okay, here you go. I'm like, that's it? I just demand a dog. Okay, fine, I'm out. So then we drove her back over the border and had no problem getting her across and got her all cleaned up. And they say she was about 6 months when I got her. So she's just about a year right now.
All right, good. Is she a first dog? Like, or did you have like experience with dogs before?
I had a couple growing up, but they were more my dad's dogs than ours. So yeah, this is like my first actual my dog.
So now you're coming to like, being strict, disciplined, like all these things, teaching.
Yeah, for the most part. She's just so damn cute though. When I'm sitting there eating, she's like right here in my face. I'm like, okay, fine. Feed them little treats. But she's pretty good.
She already stole your heart. That's like, it's what they always do.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So.
But she's cute, definitely. And a real lady.
Yep.
A little princess.
Adorable thing.
Perfect.
So who's next on your guys' interview today?
Say again?
Who's next to be interviewed today?
No, not today because he can't come up, but we're gonna have Kenan from Moscow as a pipeline, and he actually is in a pretty awkward position. He just opened up his second bar, and it was running for 2 weeks, and then they had to close down due to the quarantine.
That's terrible.
That really sucks big time, but they're doing takeout as well. So, but he's going to be like the next one.
Yeah, cool.
And then obviously, as we're doing this kind of as you obviously figure out by now, it's not a real interview. It's not like having questions going through.
Oh no, yeah, I just didn't.
It's for me, it's obviously it's what we're trying to achieve, and hopefully I do, but. It's always with the help of as one who's being interviewed. It's like we're trying to kind of have that we do have these kind of same experience on the one hand. On the other hand, it's with these kind of individuality, kind of coloring, that you go no matter where we are right now. I mean, obviously it's just things is changing the world, right? And hopefully we are all in a good position to carry on in this new environment, how people deal with it, and that we have this kind of way you feel all right, we're all in this together, but with this kind of way you feel there's some obviously it's some people do feel all right, good, am I the only one who feels like this, right? And then they realize, or not, it's there are many other people having this same kind of situation, where they stuck in, and we're all obviously that's probably the disposition of being a bartender. It's we're all looking forward to getting back to talking to people, not necessarily in the beginning hugging or whatever, but getting close, having an exchange. That's what obviously bartending is most about. I mean, the drink is for me always just the basil, this kind of transportation of extending this hospitality. The rest is what you're bringing to the party as a guest, and me as a bartender, what I'm providing.
Yeah, I cannot wait to get back. So
perfect, Ryan. Thank you very much.
It was great to talk to you, man. Great to see you. I can't wait to see you in person. So hopefully we get through this and we can raise some ruckus together somewhere around the world.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, man.
It's perfect. And seriously, we probably get it like, a big brownie point from Pia because we've been like, so disciplined and on time.
Well, great. Well, thank you
So
guys. Appreciate
we
you.
got the heads up. So Ryan, it was my pleasure, really.
Always
And
a
looking
pleasure
forward
to you,
to, get to see you in person. Really.
sir. Yeah.
Thank
We'll
you
get there
very
soon
much.
enough. All right. Cheers, buddy.